I think there's like an argument, like fate loves irony. Like the most entertaining outcome is the most, like what would be the most ironic outcome? That the currency that was invented as a joke, in fact, becomes the real currency.
Right. الأردن تقريبا في 1000 بلد 1000 قرية تقريبا يعني حسابات أردنيين. America have for a time forgotten that their support for Israel was never just about creating a state for the Jew. It was about a project, an investment designed to guarantee control over the Middle East. It's no secret.
It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Were there not an Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region.
And this project called Israel began early in the 20th century, and without a doubt, it was a profitable project. I'm not saying it was a moral project, I'm just saying it was a successful project because it imposed balances and dynamics on the Middle East, all serving American interest and dominance over the region. And through this, America sought to secure its position as the world's #1 power.
In 1973, two Soviet client states, Egypt and Syria, launched a coordinated surprise attack on Israeli forces in the Sinai and the Golan Heights. Israel ultimately repelled the attacks and regained lost ground, but only after the U.S. made the decision to supply the Israeli military.
Now, after the United States became the world's sole superpower, something began to change. Israel was no longer acting only within the framework of American interests. It began pursuing its own path, a path of expansion aiming to become the dominant power in the Middle East, even when that conflicted with American interests.
What that means, Tucker, is in those cases where Israel's interests are not the same as America's interests, we support Israel. We support Israel's interests, not America's interests, because...
Over and against America's interests.
Of course.
And step by step, it moved in that direction using aggressive strategies, both inside the United States and beyond it.
They are essentially all pro-Israel lobbyists. Many of them had dual citizenships. Many of them worked for Israeli organizations.
But finally, after decades have passed, Americans began to ask themselves, does this project still serve America the way it once did? Or has it become a political, economical, and even a moral burden? If you care about the moral part. And if it has indeed become a burden, how should America respond?
From an Israeli perspective, an extremely alarming collapse in support for Israel among Americans in basically every demographic group other than conservatives over 50. So basically like decades-long Fox watchers, but even conservatives under 50 have all basically now have majority opinions that are disfavorable to Israel.
So is that what you're hearing on the ground in Georgia, where obviously there are a lot of Trump supporters where you are? Are you hearing from them that they believe President Trump is doing this on behalf of Israel? Bring us there.
خلينا نقول إنه كل بلد كل قرية فيها 5 مضافات. طبعا بعرف في قرى فيها يعني 15 مضافة أو أكثر، بس تقريبا يعني متوسط المضافات خلينا نحكي إنه 5 مضافات. Now, one of the reasons America has managed to dominate politically is its ability to constantly produce or adapt new ideas that serve its strategies. And it never ties itself to only a single project or to a permanent ally. So, during the American Revolution, for instance, the United States allied with France to defeat the British. In WW1, they aligned with the British to defeat Germany. And in 2, they allied with the Soviet Union to defeat Germany. In the NATO, they allied with Germany to counter and push back the Soviets or the Russians. But at some point, someone invented the idea that the United States should support Israel now and forever. Could be Epstein.
Israel and America are connected now and forever.
In Israel, we must make sure that they have what they need to protect their people today and always.
Peace requires compromise, but we will never ask Israel to compromise its security. Can't do that.
Today, everyone is talking about America facing major international projects, the Russian project, the Chinese project, and many suggest that the world order is changing. And the Middle East remains critical to America's position, according to several analysts, because if it shifts toward any of these powers, the balance could turn against the United States. And that's why holding on to the Middle East could still be a profitable investment for America and for the Americans. But the question is Israel still the investment in the Middle East?
The country that we're most closely allied with has no resources. It has 9 million people. It is a completely insignificant country in the Levant. I'm speaking of Israel. It is an insignificant country from an American point of view. The only reason Israel is significant is because we provide a security guarantee. We have to defend Israel because I'm not sure why. We have no moral obligation to defend Israel whatsoever. And there's no American interest inherent in Israel.
Look, America gives Israel about $3.5 billion in annual aid. And that's actually nothing if it just pays back. And sometimes Netanyahu, and his friends decide to play around and kill thousands, millions of people. The bill goes up.
Last year, President Biden requested $14.3 billion in additional assistance to Israel. A $14 billion funding request would provide an additional $10.6 billion for the Pentagon to better equip Israel.
America, by supporting the Zionist project, is forced to fight democracy and freedom in the Arab world, because it wants to keep telling Americans that Israel is the civilized, only democratic state in the region, that the state we should and must work with.
I keep telling people, you have to remember, Israel always said two things about itself. We are the only democracy in the Middle East, and we are the strongest country in the Middle East. And the reason we are the strongest countries in the Middle East is because we are the only democracy in the Middle East.
And you might think this is normal, harmless for Americans. But if you look at the bigger picture, you realize that fighting democracy in the Arab region means fighting democracy and freedom inside America itself. Because America cannot support Israel without filling its screens with lies. America cannot support Israel without distorting the Bible.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my...
They cannot support Israel without crushing freedom of speech. And when you do this in one topic, it becomes normal to do it in any other topic. On issues like transgender, for instance.
You're seeing a complete, total attack on one of the most fundamental principles of the Western world, which is your ability to express yourself and your ability to call out that you think that the policies that are being implemented in your country are destructive.
And that's why America's democracy now is in danger and Americans are no longer free.
Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't.
تكلفة المضاف الواحد بدنا نحكي إنه في يعني 100,000 دينار كويس 100,000 تقريبا يعني. So America's continued support for the Israel project that demands Israel's dominance over the entire Middle East is impossible to achieve except by killing millions of people who already live in the Middle East. And even if this project succeeds, it will only multiply the hatred of the region's people toward America. And that growing resentment does not disappear. It accumulates, and over time it erodes America's strategic or possible strategic alliances in the region gradually. but decisively. There is no way back. Now, America has invested in many countries over the past 100 years, and it quickly abandoned those investments once they felt they had lost their value. They once invested in Iran, in Afghanistan, they invested in China, and now they are pulling the investments back once they feel the investments lost their values. So once again, the question must be asked, is Israel still has value for America and for the Americans? I don't think Trump is the right person to answer this question. A man who still believes coal is the future of energy is a man still living exactly in the middle of the 20th century when the coal was the thing. So of course he still sees Israel as the project, a successful project.
There's another promise that is deeply important to me, and I know it is deeply important to you. We are going to put our coal miners back to work.
But let's rewind for a moment. In the 1940s, people were still traveling between countries on donkeys, some people. And today they are thinking in SpaceX about how to get to Mars. Back then, some used carrier pigeons. Today they tweet on X. At that time, America used Israel as a tool to control the region. But the question again is relying on Israel today still the right technology?
Yes! Look at them.
Yes! What? Look at that.
חיים, הזכות שלי, של אשתי, של הילדים שלי, להסתובב בכבישי יהודה ושומרון, יותר חשוב מזכות התנועה של הערבים. סליחה מוחמד, אבל זו המציאות, זו האמת, זכות החיים שלי קודמת לזכות התנועה.
Now, if America wants to hold on to its power in the coming decades, it must create a new strategic pioneering project. But it seems America have become incapable of producing innovative political projects. And so it clings to a failed old projects, one invented in the 20th century by the British, by the way. So is it possible to create a new project? Of course. The project is just to shift America's investments few kilometers away. Instead of investing in Israel as a tool for destruction and chaos and a mess, let's invest in Jordan as a tool for peace, prosperity, and growth.
Well, history proves that, unfortunately and unhappily, Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan. Because if you are strong enough, ruthless enough, powerful enough, evil will overcome good.
In Jordan, our firm belief in these common values, grounded in our history and heritage, drives our national principles of tolerance and mutual respect. And we are proud to be home to the baptism site of Jesus Christ. Peace be upon him at Bethany beyond the Jordan. I have sought to shed light on the values we share, many rooted in our different faiths, Islam, Christianity, Judaism. The values of compassion, justice, and equality, the moral teachings passed to us over generations that call on us to love our neighbors, to protect children and the innocent, to aid the poor and injured, to care for God's earth.
Instead of spending billions of dollars on the madmen of Israel, who want to kill millions of people and destroy freedom and morality inside and outside America because Jesus Christ has no advantage over Genghis Khan, while generating more hatred and hostility toward everyone. That money could be spent on support and growth in Jordan. Then Jordan would become a hub for peace, energy project, and AI that support growth in America and the region. And this is not difficult. The Jordanians and Americans who genuinely want freedom and prosperity for America and for the Middle East can make this happen for their shared interest. But there is one condition, and this is on the Jordanian people's part. There must be a real democracy in Jordan. So Jordanians can freely choose this project and work to make it succeed with all their energy.
The Arab world, no force that governed the region, whether it was progressive or reactionary, whether it was a republic or a monarchy, no force in the Arab world worked to put in place institutional mechanisms to ensure a democratic culture, to ensure pluralistic systems.
طيب عندنا يعني بدنا نحكي 5000 مضافة في الأردن، 5000 تكلفة الوحدة 100,000، فبطلع المجموع نص مليار دينار أردني. And let me be honest here with you. Most Jordanians hate America, but they don't hate America because it's America. They hate it because it has supported the project called Israel for the past 100 years. And that can change if America abandons the Israeli project and instead support genuine freedom in the region. I mean, look, who would believe that Arabs would be cheering for Tucker Carlson 2 years ago? So, but this won't happen unless freedom first return to America themselves. And this is exactly what Americans have already started.
How much influence does Israel have on our country?
Israel's controlling our government.
Israel controls us.
Israel is in control of our government.
The government of Israel controls the United States.
Israel has run American foreign policy for 30 years.
It feels like we're just owned by Israel, and we just never knew it.
Is the United States government now just taking edicts and orders from Israel?
Israel first.
Israel first.
Israel first. This really is an Israel first administration.
Israel.
AIPAC, I'm coming to tear your kingdom down.
Mr. Mamdani.
I would stay in New York City.
America first means we don't go to war on behalf of other countries.
Cut off aid to Israel.
I wouldn't send him a dime.
This is my country. Who do you have allegiance to?
Do you believe America's your country, or do you believe Israel's your country?
Act like an American, not an Israeli. What are you, a foreign agent?
I don't think we should be fighting wars on behalf of Israel.
Israel's wars are not America's wars.
But why Jordan? The American left is already an ally of Jordan, and the American right could also become an ally. In fact, Jordanians may feel closer to the American right than to the left, except for one key issue, the right support for Israel. And shifting that support away from Israel's current form is not so difficult.
It's just interesting, and you know this because you spent so much time in the United States, that I don't think it would enter the minds of most Americans that a Christian could be better treated here in Jordan than in Israel.
I mean, I see the stories of how Christians are suffering in Israel, especially the Palestinian Christians.
Well, Jordanians too. You just need to tell Americans, Fox News and all these channels, you need to tell Americans that Jordanians too, and that's true. We're not making this up. Just like the American right await the return of Christ. And let's say most Jordanians. So some would not get angry about this generalization for the establishment of a just kingdom. So let's align this mission with Jordanians, and we promise you there will be a mansif for Jesus Christ when he arrives to Jordan. Preparing for Christ's returns should mean giving peace to everyone, not killing millions of children and women. So trust me, Jordanians will follow a more Christ-like path. إذا حولنا الدينار الأردني للدولار بيطلع يعني مليار إلا. في عنا مليار إلا مضافات في الأردن. حسبنا مضافات المدن كمان وإلى آخره، يعني بتوصل لك مليار بالراحة. Jordan can be a meeting point for both the American left and the American right. Jordan is the natural strategic alternative for many reasons, and let's keep this for phase 2 of this proposal. Jordan is the natural strategic alternative if America decides to move beyond the burden of Israel. So America no longer has a strategic option to prevent its collapse except the moral option.
And so the only way out of this is to stop lying, is to tell the truth now, probably 63 years after we should have started telling the truth, but it's never too late to tell the truth now about everything. And the longer you delay doing that, the more horrible the consequences of your lies. So let's hope that tonight, with this conversation with Joe Ken, is the beginning of the long overdue truth-telling, which is the only thing that will save this country.
The project is this: for Americans themselves to lead a real project to restore democracy to America and to the Americans. And we are not talking about the fake project that Trump talks about. We are talking about a project Americans have already begun. A project that many Americans on both the left and the right are already speaking about. And we are not giving a moral lecture here. It's an investment opportunity. America's only option, if it wants to remain strong in this side of the world, is to join the Jordanians' project in the region. And what makes this project unique is that it's like a Dogecoin. It looks like a joke. It doesn't follow a conventional logic. The fundamentals do not support, but it represents the future of politics in the Middle East. At first glance, it might look like many other projects presented to America, but there is one fundamental difference in the Jordanian offer. We are not offering you billions to accept us into the American project. We are not calling for Dogecoinists to join Bitcoinists. We are asking the Bitcoinists to join the Dogecoinists. It might be a delusion, and it might be not.
One of the biggest mistakes people generally make, and I'm guilty of it too, is wishful thinking. You know, like you want something to be true, even if it isn't true.
Do you think actually, weirdly, even though Doge was just designed to be like this ridiculous joke currency, the actual total transactional throughput capability of Doge is much higher than Bitcoin. And the fact that there's 5 billion Doge created every year is actually, I think, good for using it as a transactional currency.
Mm-hmm. Where is it used as a transactional currency? Anywhere
right now? You can buy like Tesla merch and SpaceX merch with.
على المليار ونص اللي جمعناه يا جماعة، احنا جاهزين نعمل اللوبي الأردني لمصالح الأردن في الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية، وبضل ناقصنا جزيرة.